Cyber threats are growing fast. Global security incidents surged by 69.8% between February and March of this year, according to the company IT Governance USA. No matter the size of your business, staying ahead of these threats is critical. But where do you start? That's where the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, steps in. Their Cybersecurity Framework, or CSF, recently updated to version 2.0 in 2024. And it offers a streamlined, flexible approach to help businesses like yours manage and reduce your cybersecurity risks. Today, I'm going to be breaking down the new framework, making it accessible for businesses of all sizes so that you can take action and protect your organization from growing cyber threats. Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. I'm Michael Kanet. I'm CEO and founder at iTernal Networks. And here at iTernal Networks, we believe that knowledge is power. So every Friday at 1 o'clock Pacific time, I go live on all of our social media pages to discuss different educational, security, and technology-related topics to help empower my fellow business owners. These live streams aim to help small business owners become more confident in their knowledge and an understanding of business technology and cybersecurity. At iTernal Networks, we're dedicated to creating safe and secure environments for businesses and people to do what they love. And staying educated on the latest cybersecurity threats and technology is a key part of staying up on top of things. At the end of the live stream, I'll also be answering questions from the audience, so make sure you got those questions ready. Throw them in the comments at any time. I'll cover those towards the end. All right, for our discussion, before I dig into the updated framework from NIST, I think it's important to understand what a cybersecurity framework is. NIST CSF, or NIST Cybersecurity Framework 2.0, is exactly that. It's a cybersecurity framework, but it's not the only one. A cybersecurity framework is a structured set of guidelines, best practices, and standards that are designed to help organizations manage and reduce their cybersecurity risk. These frameworks provide comprehensive approaches for identifying, assessing, managing, and mitigating cybersecurity threats and vulnerabilities. And the frameworks are typically developed by industry or government bodies and offer a common language or methodology for ensuring the security of your information systems. In this particular case, what we're going to be talking about today, the framework was built by the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or we call NIST for short. At the heart of this cybersecurity framework from NIST is the core. And this is the updated 2.0 version, right? There's been a NIST cybersecurity framework around for years, but in May of this year, they published and got approval from their governing body, this updated version. So the core of NIST's framework consists of 5 concurrent and continuous functions. I want to emphasize that. These are concurrent and continuous, right? This isn't step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. This is, you really need to be doing all of them all of the time, but they are related to each other. So we're gonna dig into those. So these 5 functions are identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. I know it sounds like a do this, and then this, and then this, and then this. I'll explain. It'll make a little bit more sense after I go through it. So these 5 functions provide a high-level strategic view of your cybersecurity risk, as well as an organization's management of that risk. This allows for a dynamic approach to addressing threats in your organization. So I'm going to go into each of these 5 core functions now a little bit more detailed. So each of these functions do lead into each other, right? So there is kind of that step by step, but it's dangerous to get into the mindset of I have to do this before I can do that on all of these, right? And that I have to completely finish this before I do that. I'll explain with some examples as I go through these, right? So step 1 is identify. This function involves identifying and understanding the organization's assets, cyber risks, and vulnerabilities. it's essential to have a clear understanding of what you need to protect. You need to do this before you can install any safeguards. So there's a reason why I'm constantly on these live streams talking about risk assessments and understanding your risk, because every framework, that is step one. You have to understand your risk. And you have to understand that before you install any safeguards, which is step two, protect. The protect function focuses on implementing safeguards. These protections are to deter, detect, and mitigate cybersecurity risks that you identified in step one. This includes measures such as installing firewalls, intrusion detection systems, and data encryption. Now, I'm going to give you a little example here of why it's dangerous to feel like you need to completely finish one before you do two and move on to three. If you identify a risk in step one, you don't need to wait until you finish identifying all of your risks before you say, hey, you know what? I need a firewall. I know I need a firewall. Let's just get a firewall installed and we'll finish evaluating our data risk and other risks and move forward, right? And so for your perimeter protection with a firewall, right? You're moving forward in that step of functions, right? Related to your perimeter protection with firewalls. That doesn't mean that you're not still on step one for other aspects of your cybersecurity. So keep that in mind, right? We're going to be going in circles through these functions, and it is step by step. When you identify a risk, you take that risk to step two, to step three, right? And so on. But there's other aspects of your cybersecurity. That's why it's continuous and concurrent, right? Because as you identify risk, you move on with that risk, you're still identifying other risks. So it's ongoing, right? Cybersecurity, the threats are ongoing, the protection needs to be ongoing as well. All right, now on to number three. So number three is detect. Early detection of cybersecurity incidents is critical for minimizing the damage done. The faster that you detect, the faster you can move to the next step, which is respond, right? So the detect function emphasizes the importance of detection, as well as having mechanisms to identify and report suspicious activity, right? Not all suspicious activity is a breach. But if you're not reporting suspicious activity, you're not going to detect the breaches as early as if you are evaluating and looking at that. So make sure that when you're implementing this mechanism, that you're looking at all aspects of that security, that you're monitoring those systems that you've installed, those controls that you've put into place to mitigate against the risk. You got to monitor those and make sure they're doing their job. And if there are any anomalies, you got to look at them. Which leads to number four, respond. The respond function outlines the steps to take in the event that you have a cybersecurity incident. This includes activities such as containment, eradication, recovery, and I think one of the most important ones, lessons learned. If you don't learn from what happened, it's going to happen again. And so it's important that, as you're going through this function, this respond function, that you have outlined policies and procedures on how to respond in different types of incidents. Not all incidents are the same. Not all of them should be treated the same. Containment of certain types of incident is going to be very different than other types. So you got to look at those. That's part of, you identify the risk. Okay, this is the risk. And then as you're going through and implementing your controls, then you got to also come up with those policies and procedures to respond if that control fails or something happens and you have an incident on your hands. All right, and then number five, this is recover. The recover function focuses on exactly what it sounds like, right? Restoring normal operations after you have a cybersecurity incident. This includes activities such as data restoration, system recovery, and business continuity planning. All right. These five core functions, right? These are repeated continuously throughout your business, in all aspects of your business, to adapt and evolve the security of your organization. Now, I do want to point out one of the big changes in the NIST Cybersecurity Framework 2.0 versus 1.0 is they added profiles and tiers. The updated, the concept of profiles and tiers helps organizations tailor their cybersecurity plans and practices to their organization. You can customize it a little bit more to your specific needs, including your risk tolerances and what resources you have. So I'm going to talk a little bit about both of these, but I'm not going to get super deep into it. Profiles are the alignments of the functions, categories and subcategories. So the functions are what I just talked about, and each of those functions, right, those 5 functions, have categories and subcategories of different controls and mechanisms as part of them. So you can have a custom profile for your business that's a little different than the business down the street, because your business is different. So you align these profiles with your business requirements, your risk tolerance, and the resources that you have, so that it fits your need and your risk level. The tiers is a little bit more of like a grade, right? So tiers provide context on how your organization views cybersecurity risk and kind of how well you're doing at it. It looks at the processes in place to manage those risks. So there's 4 tiers. The first, where we all start at, is partial. Partial organizations have basic levels of cybersecurity in place. Maybe not. They may not have any cybersecurity in place. But a partial organization is the one that's just starting down their path of cybersecurity, right? Maybe they've got an antivirus program, but that's really it. They've got a firewall and that's it, right? They've got very, very basic levels of security in place. That's where they're starting out. As they go through these controls and implement the framework and go through these, loops, right, of cybersecurity implementation and identifying and then putting systems in place to protect against that risk, right? That will lead them to the next tier, which is risk informed. These organizations have started to have a more structured approach to their security, implementing protections and prioritizing cybersecurity risks, right? So once you start down that road, you start implementing better protections, now you're in tier 2, right? Now you're a risk-informed organization because you've done that risk analysis, that risk assessment, and you're starting to put protections in place. The number 3 tier 3 is repeatable. So an organization that's in the repeatable tier has established repeatable cybersecurity processes that are constantly being applied in their organization. And then that leads to tier 4, which is adaptive. This is for the highest and most mature organizations. They continuously monitor their systems and environments for emerging threats and vulnerabilities. They proactively adapt their cybersecurity practices to address the evolving risks in their industry and in the world. And they change their culture to be a culture of security. So as an organization goes through the 5 core functions and evolves their security, they would move up from tier 1 to tier 4. So, the goal is to move up in that. Now, every organization may not get to tier 4, right? Maybe your organization, you're happy at tier 3. The important thing is to determine what your risk level is, what your risk tolerance is, and move up that tier system. All right. So I've gone through NIST CSF 2.0. This is high level, right? There's a lot more to this. We can get into the nuts and bolts of it, but that's the high level. I do want to talk a little bit about some of the benefits of using the new NIST CSF 2.0, or even using the CIS control framework or other frameworks, right? By implementing a framework, you are able to improve your cybersecurity posture. So specifically with NIST CSF 2.0, right, organizations can develop a more comprehensive and effective cybersecurity program, which leads to a reduced risk of cyber attacks. The framework helps organizations identify and mitigate cybersecurity risks. It can help reduce the likelihood of cyber attacks because you're putting better protections in place where the risk exists. You're not just putting protections blindly in place, you're analyzing and you're methodically putting that where the highest risk is to minimize that likelihood of a cyber attack. Following a framework also leads to enhanced compliance. Many industry standards and regulations align themselves with NIST, CSF 2.0, or CIS, or some of the other frameworks, right? So you can better align with your compliance requirements to be able to be more prepared in the event that you're audited. It also leads to improved communication through common language, right? So by having that framework in place and everybody being aligned with it, everybody understands the terminology that's being used. What is a breach? What is an incident? What is, all of that's part of your plan that you develop, and makes it easier to communicate and be on the same page with your entire organization. NIST framework can also help organizations save money. It does this by preventing cyber attacks and reducing the impact of incidents. It also can reduce your cyber insurance policy premiums. I talked about that on last week's live stream. So you can go back and find out more about that, about how things that you implement can make it more likely to get a good policy and to reduce the cost of that policy. And having a framework, a documented framework that you're following, where you can say, here's how we are aligned with this framework, will help with that as well. If you're interested in getting started with NIST CSF 2.0 or with CIS or one of the other frameworks, there's a few things that you can do. One, familiarize yourself with the framework, right? That's the first step. You got to get some education, right? What I'm talking about today, that's a good start. Take time to read through any publications, right? So NIST CSF 2.0 is publicly available, right? It's a government organization. You can go and search CSF 2.0 and find the links to their documentation. Familiarize yourself with the core functions and categories. And then start at the top, right? Start to assess your current cybersecurity posture. Conduct an assessment to determine where you're starting at. That will help you identify any gaps, any weaknesses, and any risks that you currently have. And then develop a written information security plan, or WISP. Based on your assessment, you can put this document together, right? It should outline how you're going to put in place the framework that you've selected for your organization. And frequently, in order to do this, you're going to need some professional help getting started with some of these frameworks. So seek out a managed IT service provider like iTernal Networks that knows and understands these frameworks and that can help you down that path of better protection. We'll offer guidance and support along the way. By following these steps, you can begin to deploy a cybersecurity framework in your organization and improve your cybersecurity posture. At iTernal Networks, we specialize in helping businesses implement the NIST and CIS frameworks, ensuring that they're well protected against the latest cyber threats. And so if you're ready to get started or have any questions about these frameworks or how they can enhance your cybersecurity strategy, I'd love to have a discovery call, talk with you, answer your questions, and help you get started down that path of better protection. There's a link in the chat where you can reach out to us, or at the bottom of the screen. If you go to that URL, you can schedule a discovery call one-on-one with me. Or you can also always message me, right, on any of these social media platforms, and I can respond to you on there as well. I'm definitely excited, to help any organization strengthen their cybersecurity posture. All right, let's look and see if we have any questions from our audience from today. Not seeing any questions come through right now. If you're watching this after the fact, give us a like, whatever platform you're on. Let us know that you've seen it, that you appreciate the content, and throw in the comments, your thoughts on this. If you've got a topic that you'd like us to cover, throw it in there and say, hey, I've always had a question about whatever it is, right? Can you cover this next week? And we'll gladly throw that into our schedule so we can make sure that your questions are answered, so we can help educate more people and get more people to improve their cybersecurity resilience. Thanks for joining us today. Like I said, if you found this video helpful, please give us a thumbs up or comment. You can always reach out to me on any of our social media platforms. You can give us a call, send me an email, visit our website, itnet.works. We would love to hear from you and help you along your path to better cybersecurity protections. Have a good weekend. Thanks.